Well, coasters, hey, what a great day. Sitting here waiting for the rain to come. And today I've got the pleasure of having the Honourable Judith Collins joining us to discuss politics. What else? And so we should, because, gosh, we're surrounded by us. But Judith, how's life?
Well, Bruce, at the moment I'm in Auckland, so we're in a level 2.957 looking for probably a level 3 or a bit more this afternoon from the Prime Minister. I'm very happy to be able to have spent the last week with my family, and then I'm off to Wellington in a couple of days where I'll go into self-isolation. I've just had my first COVID test on Sunday, just come back today with a negative, so that's helpful. And I'll self-isolate in Wellington until the next week when Parliament starts.
Yeah, Judith, how's David handling it?
Well, remarkably well, actually, Bruce, thank you for asking. He and our son James are getting on. Our son's a software developer, so he's actually able to mostly work from home. So from his point of view, he's just keeping on going. And without obviously the camaraderie you have in the workplace. And David's very busy with his other activities, so he's got a lot of work on.
Well, make sure you let him know we miss him, because all this lockdown, it's sort of made it difficult, hasn't
it? It certainly has, and he loves the coast so much.
Judith, I wonder if we could start off by talking about Three Waters. The PM is sort of keeping well away from the TV on Three Waters, and I guess that kind of tells me that things are not going so well in that direction. And it also seems to be, in the last few days, just started to be missing from the media. Tell me, what's your position?
Well, Three Waters is an absolute travesty. So New Zealanders were never told that this was going to be part of the government's plan, that they were going to basically strip councils of their assets and control of water and put them into 4 different entities. Those entities would then be have a board or a governance group, which would have 6 members from councils, multiple councils, about 20 councils would get to choose 6. Iwi would get another 6. Then they'd go and choose another board, an independent panel. Then they would select a board, and then they would select the management. So it's like Russian dolls, really. And nobody told New Zealanders they were going to get stripped of their assets like this.
Nobody told the mayors, nobody told the councils, and nobody told the people.
No.
Judith, look, it doesn't matter where you go, and it doesn't matter what your feelings are in relation to, people talk about racism and all sorts of things. I have to tell you that the obstacle that I hit on every day is the position of iwi, or the position that iwi are being placed by government, and a lot of iwi are very, very uncomfortable. What do you think? What's the game?
Well, if you're talking about water, well, we don't believe that iwi own the water. We don't believe that at all. We believe that iwi have interests in water, as do many other New Zealanders. Water is an absolute necessity of life, and it actually comes from the sky. So I think it's going a long way to say that one particular group of New Zealanders own water and everyone else gets to ask for it. We've got, the government has moved into the sort of governance role, co-governance role that they're pushing iwi into. And that means like the RMA reforms that we've been asking for years now, for the last 4 years since I've been involved in RMA and as the leader, that's going down the track of no longer the iwi being consulted about big RMA projects or any RMA projects, but now iwi having to consent, which is an entirely different situation. So the government is playing a hand, and you can see why Jacinda Ardern is a long way away from Three Waters, RMA reform or anything else, because number one, she doesn't want to explain it. Number two, she doesn't want to own it. And actually, she's much happier going off and having photos with school kids. Much happier.
It's crazy. what are we going to do if the government, we wake up one morning and Minister Mahuta says, well, actually, too bad, guys. We're going to legislate. We're going to confiscate these assets. I mean, what will we do?
Okay, so first off, you have been doing a great job, Bruce, by the way, and so many other mayors and councils have gotten behind you and they've taken your lead. We have, I think, now around 60 out of 66 councils or 67 councils have absolutely sworn off these changes, this asset rip-off, and basically laundering it through some schemes to try and suddenly give half to iwi and half to some particularly fine little group of people who are chosen by the government, essentially. So number one, we will have to reverse them, and that's it. 2023, you're going to have something to vote for, and it's going to be reversing this is going to be part of it. It is absolutely crucial that the national government, when we come in, doesn't come in and do what we've seen so many times before, which is just tinker in things. And Labor does the same often as well. We have to say, no, this is not continuing. Yes, we're happy to have testing of water. Yes, we're happy to have some regulation when it comes around standards. Yes, we're happy to look at, some of the local government reviews to see how things can work better. But no, we're not going to stand by and let these assets be confiscated. We will give them back. We will give them back to the local people and the local councils, and we will undo what has been done. And I mean, that is a big call. And so we need somebody who has the spine to do it. And, Bruce, you're looking at her. I can do it.
I saw you as Minister of Police. I was just so impressed in those days, and I think you can do it. Judith, can we, in black and white, National's going to reverse the confiscation of the assets, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. National will reverse the confiscation of the assets. So understand that. So the good thing that we know with this government is that no matter what law they pass, they're very quick to do that, by the way. They'll shove stuff through urgency in Parliament, stop people having a proper say. This is what we're seeing at the moment with the Three Waters. We're talking to councils, as we know, spending about $710 million essentially trying to bribe people. But good on the councils for taking the money and saying no. So I think good on them. But what we have to do is we have to reverse it. And we know that these guys are really hopeless at actually delivering anything. This is why they're not in charge of food delivery, because they couldn't even get the vaccines delivered properly. They couldn't get the Kiwi build houses delivered. So we know that no matter what they regulate or legislate for, they won't actually deliver on all of their threats. So it'll be relatively easy. We'll just have to get in there, change the law, and we have to have the people behind us to do it.
The power's with the people. Judith, can we talk about reforms? I mean, we've got DHB, Polytex, the RMA being replaced with 3 further acts: the Natural and Built Environments Act, the Strategic Planning Act, the Climate Adaptation Act, health reform, 3 waters, and now a focus on local government. Now, the people I talk to on the ground are saying, hey, things need to change, but we want to drive it from the people up. We don't want it driven from the PM down. What's National's position in relation to that?
Yeah, well, we're very supportive of reviewing and looking at things and saying how can things be better. But you're right, Bruce. It's the people who know how things actually operate are the best people to lead reviews. And when I think about, when you mentioned my time when I was police minister, we got some of our best work done, our best ideas actually from the front line, because the further you are away from the people who actually do the deliveries, the further you are away from how things work, how things can work logistically, but how to make things better. And so we're already seeing it with councils working together on things like water or other delivery and transport and other areas. Why don't we let people just get on with the job instead of constantly threatening them? So when you say things like the centralisation of the Polytex, well, what is the problem they're trying to fix? I mean, Southland, Really? Is that a problem? I wouldn't have thought so. It's a great institution that was chief executive is Penny Simmons, was Penny Simmons till she became a National Party MP. How could you find fault with that one? There's always going to be individual ones, but do you upend the entire system and run it all from Wellington? They think it's like Labor thinks that all the brains are in Wellington and all the experience and everyone else just doesn't count. And you see it with the health reforms. Why would you be taking our entire DHB system, turning it into two systems, one for Māori and one for everyone else? And you do this in the middle of a global pandemic when you've got a Ministry of Health that can't even get in time, haven't bothered to order the boosters yet, and only now is talking about bringing in some of the new therapeutics to help people with COVID. Well, so why would you do this?
Inexperience, and it's not focusing on priorities, which it's quite frustrating. Now, Judith, this coming weekend is Super Saturday. Now, I know that Lotto's at 30 million, so I can understand why they're calling it Super Saturday. But there's a coordinated drive to bring vaccination numbers up around the country. The Greymouth Drive-In has already got 2,000 plus registered.
Right.
I know you've been a big supporter. What's the message out there, revaccination?
Well, my message is to everybody, look, please get yourself vaccinated. I know that there is some vaccine hesitancy in particularly people who haven't had many vaccinations in the past and they're worried about new technology. This new technology actually is significantly safer, it seems to me, than the older technology because no one's putting a dead virus in you or a knocked around virus in you. What they're doing is they're putting in some mRNA, which dissolves after, in some cases, hours, otherwise a couple of days. So you don't have the COVID in your system for months or years. You have your system, though, has seen enough of the protein of the COVID virus to basically get it all ready to go. And that's, what we're seeing is it's about a 90-something% success rate with it. And that means stopping the virus. Sometimes people will get the virus even though they've been vaccinated. But what we do know is that they're entirely unlikely to end up in hospital or an ICU unit. And I just say to people, this is not the flu. It is a virus. It is extremely dangerous, and please get vaccinated.
Seems like a really simple message. Yeah, it seems that perhaps elimination was the wrong call on day one, perhaps. How will containment, which is the new buzzword, how's that going to go?
Yeah, well, it will go better if the Prime Minister turns up for her press conferences, like she hasn't done since Thursday. She really does need to. If she wants to start fronting things when everything's going well, she should be fronting things when things aren't going well. But I think, too, is that people have become a little bit concerned that the government's taken a very long time to sort of stop talking about elimination. They're going to stamp it out. I mean, we went from elimination to stamp it out and other little terms you'd say to, a child rather than adults. And now suddenly it's containment. Well, I think we are going to only works if you have plenty of vaccinations in place. Plus you have the boosters ordered and then in arms next year, and you have the ICU units in place. And actually we've now got fewer ICU beds than we did 2 years ago. So that's a real worry. And that's, intensive care unit for the people with COVID. And then you have got other things like the therapeutic drugs, which should be approved, ordered, and brought into the country. And we need the rapid antigen testing. So you and I should be able to pop down to the pharmacist, get ourselves a batch of these rapid antigen tests. And if we are concerned about where we've been or we're going to, take a test. And we'll know in 15 minutes whether or not we've got COVID. It's pretty simple. We've been talking about it for well over a year, and the government is now trialling them. And then they've been trialled all over the world. And saliva testing is, because I had a test yesterday for COVID because I'm traveling in another day. And I had the test and I thought, actually, it's quite invasive. This thing stuck up your nose. The very nice person who administered the test said, "Well, what do you think about that?" And I said, "I'm looking forward to the saliva testing." And we laughed. He's a very nice person. It was very gentle, but it is invasive.
Well, Judith, we all laugh on the ground when we see the 1 o'clock political sermon and the PM's not there. We know that it's bad news, and when she's there, we know there must be something good to say. And it really is a bit, Now, I've been checking on going back some months when you started talking about the rapid antigen testing. Now, it's actually 8 months ago, and you've been banging away since then, and now suddenly someone's found it's a good idea, and it looks like we might be going to have it.
Wow. The UK's had this for, I don't know, the whole year, I think. US has had it. I mean, it's simply also gives some power to people to take some control over our own lives and our own health. So it means instead of thinking I've got to go and queue up or I've got to go some of these places to fight, you can actually do something yourself. I think that's a pretty good thing. And what we're told is occasionally they give, false positives rather. Well, if you do them every couple of days, that will work itself out. And if you got a positive, you'd go off and get another check, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, that seems like common sense. That's a bit of a worry.
Yes.
Now, Judith, one of the things that's up in everyone's mind at the moment is it appears that going soft on the gangs that peddle the drugs right around the country has put us in a bit of a pickle, doesn't it?
Well, we've got now this appalling situation of gang leaders coming from the Waikato and from Hawke's Bay into Auckland to tell the gangs that they should get the jab. Like we don't have enough gang leaders in Auckland. I mean, Auckland's a third of the population. You don't think we've got gang leaders all over the place? I mean, get them to do it. But ultimately, what we're seeing now is a lot of this is spreading through gangs, and they're outlaws. They're outside the law. They're the underground. They're the people operating where they don't follow rules. And getting the jab might mean that they don't infect somebody else. Well, that's good. But hang on. Gang leaders getting exemptions as essential workers, to me, that is just bizarre and is an insult to every seriously essential worker, but it also is an insult to all those people who have been stuck in Auckland and haven't been able to go down and see family members who are in the Waikato, for instance, who are very unwell or dying, haven't been able to attend funerals until very lately, all these sorts of things. And we've got this joke of Sonny Fatu from Waikato Mongrel Mob Kingdom, or whatever they call themselves, and what's his name, Harry Tam from Hawke's Bay Mongrel Mob, going up to Auckland to go and tell the bros what to do. Well, for goodness sake, while they're there, stop selling methamphetamine, stop treating people like dirt, stop treating women so badly, and stop beating people up. And there you are, all sorted.
All done just like that. Fantastic.
Well,
now, Judith,
Willie Jackson now saying they're having discussions, but he won't tell us with whom. Willie Jackson is actually a Minister of the Crown, for anyone who doesn't know that. And he's not going to tell the media or the public who he's been meeting with the gang world. And by the way, he's going to think about what help they can give them. Well, I can think of a help for them.
Is Willie Jackson still in Parliament, Judith?
Yes, I know. It's appalling. Yes.
Yeah.
He is. He came back into Parliament.
Oh, dear, oh dear. We don't see much of that in the South Island, which is why we live here.
No. So sensible in the South Island.
Judith, thank you so much for joining us today. I'd love you to consider giving me the opportunity again to speak to you on the issues of the day. It's a great privilege. I mean, on the coast here, we're 33,000 people. In my area, Westland is 8,800 people. And to get to speak to the leader of the opposition, it's fair to say, you've spent more time on the coast than most politicians that I know. But it's a great pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much. Let's talk again.
Thank you, Bruce. I'd be happy to do so.